we will go ahead and get started. My name is Christian. I'm part of the marketing team at Qit, and thank you for being here for today's webinar, How to Use Your Q Page as a Marketing Asset. I'm originally from the US, from the Philadelphia area. I've been in Denmark for 9 years now, here out of our Qit's Copenhagen headquarters. And I've been here for a little over 6 years. And in particular, I'm excited today to talk about being on the marketing team. Excited to talk about using the marketing possibilities, basically, of the waiting room. I think this is an aspect that's often overlooked by people who think about Qit, including our customers. So, yeah, Tatiana, could you share a little bit about yourself as well?
Of course, I'll be happy to. Well, my name is Tatiana. I'm the customer success team lead for the EMEA market. I have an amazing team of 5 CSMs, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you work with some of them or have worked with me in the past. I'm originally from Slovakia. I've been in Denmark for 9 years, and out of those 8 years in Qit. So I've seen the work with many of you, and I'm just super excited here today to share learnings from the many customer conversations I've had over the past 8 years. So yeah, let's kick this off then.
Sounds good.
Yeah, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of customer conversations, but they all share one thing in common. So that whenever we talk with you about custom teams, there are 3 main points that we try to convey. And this is also how we have structured our webinar or our product talk today. To start off, we'll talk about the brand experience, which is crucial. Customers should feel connected to your brand from start to finish, feeling they're part of the experience, part of the sale, part of the event, no matter which industry, no matter which country you're in. Then we'll move on to delivering informed and transparent weight. You simply need to keep your customers informed. The more, the better is always our recommendation. And to make the wait as enjoyable as possible, you need to keep them informed. And the final topic we'll cover is making most out of your audience. You have your customers' attention, so we'll show you how to do the most out of it. So we'll jump into the first topic. Hope everybody's ready.
I am.
Good, we got one.
Yeah, we got one.
And we'll chat about the brand experience. So before we jump in, a fun fact, over 90% of our customers have the custom themes feature. So this should be relevant to at least 10 out of 10 of you. Quick recap of what is possible with custom themes. As you can see on the graphic, there are many functionalities of our custom theme design. You can, for example, show the waiting room in over 50 languages to tailor the experience per market. You can use your logo, your font. You can customize the waiting info, progress bar, background. You can choose how much information you show, how much you hide. You can communicate live to your customers thanks to our dynamic messaging bar. And you can embed almost any content you want. For longer waits, we also recommend using email notification, which is a separate feature that allows users to get notified on their email about their turn. And for completely branded team or branded experience or fully white labeled solution, we can also recommend using our white label feature, which lets you remove Qit logo, what is this link, customize the URL and your turn sound, and basically all signs of Qit will be gone. Furthermore, you can design your waiting room with any combination of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and embedded content. By that, for example, we mean embed videos, live streams, social media feeds, quizzes, chats, games to keep your customers engaged. You can also highlight other products in your catalog to help cross-selling. And you can also capture email addresses in exchange for discounts or notifications for future sales.
Great. And hope you're ready for a lot of visual inspiration. That was mine, Tatiana's hope for today. I think it's always helpful to see things. Tatiana mentioned, some of the dynamic aspects too, like the embedded content, and we're going to touch on some of those points in some of the later sections as well. But just to show here, there's also, it's not just an image. You can have a video playing in the background. We really quite like this with the clouds. This is Peach, which is a Japanese airline. So again, really match your brand look and feel. Similarly here, Kobe Lettuce, another Japanese, this is a Japanese retailer. They had a maybe more toned down look, right? And they were able to tailor the waiting room to fit that. So main point here is just to say, really, again, as the headline says here, any combination of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, kind of the world is your oyster when it comes to that. And one particularly fun thing we wanted to highlight, because it's one section of the waiting room, but we often hear that there's not awareness that this can be customized, is the progress bar itself. So here are some fun examples. We're talking about the Euro. I think there's also Copa America right now. Don't quote me on that, but I know the Euro tournament is going on. We got a couple soccer ones here. There's a giraffe for a zoo in the US. Down the one below is for parks and recreation registration, right? You can also turn it into like a watch. It doesn't have to be a line per se. So just to show, really you can do a lot here. And the next one, I really wanted to talk about it, but Tatiana, I promised to not steal her thunder to share probably one of our favorite examples when it comes to the progress bar. So that's this one here, Tatiana.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry, Christian, but this is one of my total favorites from a sort of nature agency here in Denmark. And we've been playing around with the idea of updating their custom themes. And one of the suggestions directly from them was, why not have a dog walk down the progress bar? And we thought about it for a while, thought it was a really cool idea. So we made it happen. And we even made a dog sit down, so he's well trained while he's waiting. So a very fun one, and one of my absolute favorites.
When I saw this a couple months ago, I thought we have to include that in this webinar. Great. So Tatiana just walked us through, that reason number one, about that branded, seamless experience, right? The world's your oyster. You have lots of abilities with the custom theme and white label features to really customize that, make sure it's a seamless experience from website to queue to checkout. Now, second thing is, as Tatiana kind of signposted in the beginning, okay, one thing is having it branded. The second thing is, okay, how do we make the wait as enjoyable as possible? That's what we're going to go into in this section. And the interesting thing is, when it comes to this, is that, people often think the shorter the better, basically, or it's the length of the wait that matters. In reality, there's an entire sort of academic area called queue psychology around this. It shows that it's how people feel while they're waiting. It's not necessarily purely the length of the wait that determines how the experience is. There's a Harvard Business School professor whose framework we used, which is, you'll see on the next slide. There's some 6 fundamental rules behind this queue psychology. And I know it sounds a little bit academic, so I just wanted to give a very concrete anecdote or example that I'm sure everyone watching this webinar has experienced. And I feel like it maps pretty well with what we offer here at Queue. And that is, if you call a phone number. So it's a phone situation. You can call a phone number, and there's one of 3 things can happen, for example. One, you can get a busy dial tone. That prompts a lot of questions, right? Did I dial the wrong number? Is the business out of business? Or is it just busy and I need to call back, but do I call back in a minute or 10 minutes or an hour? Second option is, and that's kind of the equivalent online of like a 403 or 503 error page, right? The next is you can call and get put on hold, right? So you've made it through, but again, you don't know if you're waiting 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. You can't really plan your time. It's not very clear, right? And that's kind of the equivalent online of a page that says, whoops, we're busy, come back later. A little bit more elegant than the first, but still not that much better. Now, the third example is you call, you get a message saying, hey, we're experiencing high call volumes. You're number 10 in queue. Your estimated wait time is 5 minutes. Push number, if you press 1, we'll enter your phone number and you'll get a call back when it's your turn in line, and you maintain your spot in line. And that's the kind of experience that Queue offers in terms of the waiting room. And I think if you put yourself in your own shoes, I'm sure you've all experienced one version of, or 2, or hopefully all 3 of those. You can know how it feels when you go through that. Just to say, Queue psychology maybe sounds a little academic, but it's very practical and something that everyone has experienced. So the key tenets that I mentioned, coming from Harvard Business School, and we'll quickly walk through them. What makes the wait feel shorter? The first is occupied time. Feels shorter than unoccupied time. One concrete example of this in practice in the real world, Neil is our co-founder. One of our co-founders always likes to mention this example of elevators. What do they often put in elevators and outside while you're waiting? Are mirrors. And that's because people like to look at themselves, they get distracted, and they forget that they've been standing there for a minute or two waiting for the elevator to come.
That's, super example. And I'm sure that works a little bit better in, skyscrapers in New York than in the 4-story building in Copenhagen. Here you either don't have an elevator or you just wait very shortly. So one of those two cases. But as Christian mentioned, there are some key components to this queue psychology. And then the second one that we want to mention would be getting started. You really just want to make sure that you're already a part of the process, even if you're just in the beginning, that you notice that somebody notes down that you have come to the event, to the experience, to the sale. And if you imagine when you go to a restaurant, it's so much nicer for an experience if you're offered some drinks, or if you're at least offered a drink menu and a quick drink order, rather than just sitting there and waiting for the full order to start. So you don't really notice, even if you're waiting for a few extra minutes, maybe the restaurant is busy, you really just gotten started. You have your drinks, you're much more chilled than you would be in the other option. The same goes in our reality or Queued reality with the queue, seeing that you have started, you're part of the process, and you know what to do where you are.
Yep. And third one, and we will also just briefly walk through kind of concretely how the queue waiting room, you can make sure that you're tapping into all of these. The third one is known finite waits, right? If you're known, again, kind of like that phone example, even if you only end up waiting 2 minutes, if you don't know how long you have to wait, you might be thinking you need to wait 10 minutes or an hour. It's really a lot of uncertainty there. Another, just going back to that elevator example, again, one that Niels, our co-founder, mentioned a lot is, the sign that says on what floor the elevator is. Now, crucially, this doesn't make the wait any shorter, but it does show people that there's, that it's making progress, and they can expect, okay, if it's on floor number 3, it should be here in the lobby quite shortly. That's a good example of known finite waits. And I will show you, of course, in the waiting room in a bit too, but just to give a real life example for that one.
Explained waits also feel shorter than unexplained waits. If you don't know how far along you're in the process, if you don't know if you're just starting or you're at the end, those 5 minutes will feel like forever. So even if you think of waiting for a doctor appointment here in Denmark, we call up and we wait on the line. But it tells us, oh, you're the third one in the line. We're experiencing too many calls. Now you're the second one in the line. So you can track your progress and you know why you're waiting, and especially approximately in some cases, how long you're going to wait.
Now, the fifth one is a little bit of a catch-all, that basically anxiety makes the wait feel longer. Many of the other things, if they're not there, can be anxiety provoking or stressful. But a concrete example of this, in real life is when there's multiple lines and you have to decide which line to get into. And then you're always looking over to see if another line is now moving faster, if you made the wrong decision. So there's also research that shows that it's actually more sort of less anxiety if it's just one long queue, as an example. But again, kind of this ties into many of the other points we hit here.
And for the final point, which some of you that have been with Queued for a while, fairness is our brand. Fair waits feel shorter than unfair waits. So I can imagine any of us wants to have our line skipped or somebody crossing the line in front of us. So really making sure that people are not cutting in front, that the process is fair, and that everybody feels treated fairly makes the wait much, much shorter. And good news, queue pages are already designed with this queue psychology at heart. So even our most default ones. This is relevant for all industries we support. That's something I want to highlight. But it's also relevant for public sector and education organization, where this is crucial to achieve user experience one can be proud of. And even with minimum customization efforts, you can be sure your customers are getting a pleasant experience, even with our default themes or with your branded ones. And we'll move on to a little bit more visual examples of these key points. And I'll start off with the first one, so letting people occupy their time. We mentioned a couple of examples, but I love this one, especially for a concert sale or concert ticket sale, where while you wait, you can actually listen to the playlist of the musician or the band that you're waiting for their tickets for.
Yeah, and I like our team being a little creative there with with the mock-up. We have some real examples, I think, later on as well.
Oh, I just saw the songs.
Yeah, the songs. Yeah, those good one. Second one is letting them get started, right? And I think this one, that progress bar really, and it's called a progress bar for a reason, not a waiting bar, because it helps transform the idea of waiting into progress, right? I'm seeing this little green man. He sometimes becomes, gets idol status, or gets become a cult icon, basically, at some of the festivals, for example, that we've seen. But basically, you're showing, hey, as Tatiana mentioned, I'm in the process. And I'm moving.
As we also mentioned before, if you explain the reason for the wait, it just feels much shorter, much more pleasant. So you should really put enough effort into explaining what is going on. Show that the wait time is finite via estimated wait time, and we also recommend writing a clear message and using real-time communication to keep visitors updated. As well as providing some additional information if possible. For example, for stock availability, customer support information, explaining why people are in queue. We get some customers that get really creative, and it really shows in the user engagement.
Then talking about showing the wait is finite. There are many ways to do this. In this example, showing both the estimated wait time and the expected arrival time, as well as the number of users in line ahead. Right, that's pretty clear and helps to show the finite nature of that wait together with the progress bar.
Removing unnecessary stressors can be helpful much more in longer wait times than shorter wait times. So if you have a wait time over 30 minutes, we recommend using our email notification features. And as we mentioned before, by signing up with their email, users can easily enter their place in line on any device. When the turn comes up, thus removing any unnecessary barriers to the wait.
And lastly, Tatiana mentioned fairness. There are, Queueit comes with a couple or several fairness mechanisms. There's the first in, first out wait. There's a randomization, which kind of functions like a live raffle. There's the bot protection to help ensure that product gets into the hands of loyal customers and not resellers or bad bots. There's even also, so I can go into detail about what the Queueit recommendation is for this, maybe in the Q&A section if people are curious. But for now, we'll just leave it at that there are different mechanisms, even besides the first in, first out, to help make sure that the wait is fair.
And to sum up all of these best practices, and I can guarantee you these are actually best practices. They haven't changed, at least in the time I've been here. So, first of all, be guided by the Q psychology and show as much information as possible. Write a clear message and use real-time communication to keep visitors updated. Leverage embedded content to make the page engaging, and for longer waits, use email notification to free visitors to do whatever else they want to do. And last but not least, include support information to help customers faster. That's also a very much please do that from our customer success and temp teams, as it is often overlooked, but crucial information to share with the end users. And before we move on to the next slide, you should be seeing a poll very soon where we'll be hoping you can show us which best Q practices are new to you, or hopefully just one. But if there's more, please take a second. We're gonna give you a few more seconds to fill this out.
Yeah, and I realized I didn't mention this in the beginning. I should have flagged this in the housekeeping, but I'm keeping you on your toes. Those of you who are watching live today. All right. Let's see. All right. So we got some results. The embedded content one wins out. I think I could even, I mean, it would have been fun, Tatiana, for me and you to guess which one, but the embedded content, and we will hit that a couple of times because, there's some overlap, right, between the branded experience, the Q psychology, and also the marketing aspect, which we're about to go into as well. So we have some even more examples and cool stats behind that too. I don't know, Tatiana, what are your thoughts when you see this?
My guess would have been the last one, just because of how often we need to remind people. But definitely embedding the content is the one that takes the most attention in general in our meetings with customers. So not really a surprise, to be honest.
Great. All right. Thank you all for your responses there. I think it helps spice things up a little bit, make it a little more of a two-way discussion here.
We're still there and, not asleep. So good.
Yeah, exactly. Great. So we've covered point one about that branded seamless experience. We've now just wrapped up the delivering an informed, transparent way, tapping into that Q psychology to make sure it's a positive experience for customers. Now, third is what Tatiana alluded to. Okay, you have this attentive audience on the waiting room, or in the waiting room rather. How can you capitalize on that? What are some possibilities there? And again, this is what I mentioned. It's often overlooked, but I think there's a lot of cool ideas here. So we will just cover 5 just out of the interest of time. But I'll flag now and we'll show later. We have a blog we published a couple months ago that has, I think, 12 different options, if I'm not mistaken. So to get the kind of creative juices flowing, but we'll focus on 5 here with some examples, mock-ups, but also real customer examples. So hopefully that'll help make it clear what we mean by these tactics. So the first, just to jump in, is increasing average order value, and there's many different ways you can accomplish this. We have a couple of good examples, right? But your customers are already in line, interested in your brand. That makes it an ideal moment to introduce them to other products, right? So that could be done by promoting complementary products or showing related events if it's sort of a ticketing on sale, showing upcoming concerts that are coming up, or offering sort of a promo or some sort of discount code for the products, for your shop to help encourage a little bit additional spend. We have a concrete example of that. You can link even directly to the merchandise store. I think we'll just jump right into a couple of the concrete examples, and let me zoom in here. This is some nifty new PowerPoint technology here.
So that's great. And this is an example from our lovely customer EE, a telco in the UK, who, as you can see, are really leveraging a lot of what Christian has mentioned, not only showing what is going on and how long you have to wait, but also cross-selling products such as iPhone 15 or 15 Max in this case, Apple One services, showing the product offering, product catalog, also providing more product information, but also, as you see in the beginning, providing support information. Give a call, find the local store, visit EE community chat, some help articles, really directing the users where they need them to be.
Yep, and we were able to chat with John from Tate. So I think there were some folks from the UK probably familiar, but those who aren't, it's a pretty famous museum, or I think set of museums. I think they have a couple of them. In the UK, there was the Kusama Infinity Mirror Room setup, which we knew a lot about at Kiwik because it was kind of like a traveling roadshow. The next museum or location that I went to, we got a call because it was that popular, very Instagrammable. But here, while they're waiting, they offered a promo code, for example, and a link to the online gift shop, right? And here's the quote from John. We have a success story on our website with them, but saying it was a nice added bonus and drove more revenue for them as well. So just to give a concrete example of what that increasing the average order value looked like there.
And another one of our customers, Hills Field, which is an outdoor online retailer from Japan, also shared with us that they tripled their sales thanks to cross-selling their other products. Great results coming out of encouraging engaged buyers to buy more at the right time.
Great. So that was the first one. And fundamentally, sort of the marketing or business metric behind it is increasing the average order value, right? Driving more revenue that way. Now, tactics 2 and 3, a little bit different flavors, but really what that's working on is increasing the conversion rate, right? Which is, of course, also going to result in more sales with the same amount of people. And in this way, first tactic is kind of tapping into what we call anticipation marketing. We have a cool blog on this as well, if you're curious. But really helping ramp up that purchase intent, showing that it's worth the wait, getting people really excited about this. A really nice example of this is, here are some of the product imagery and description, behind the scenes content, right? If it's especially, I'm thinking about an e-commerce collab. How did this come to be? What are some behind the scenes footage? Having a video in there, or something like that, right? Just things to keep not just them engaged, but keep them really help with some storytelling that can increase that anticipation and make it even more likely that they're going in to purchase.
And we have 2 really cool examples, 2, I would say, very different ones, but still very much to what Christian was saying. On the first one from Aboticaria, you can see them promoting a lot of different products, including their images and descriptions, really making sure that you lure people in who are already waiting to buy or look at even more products than they originally thought. And in the bottom of the page, you can also see links to their online stores, physical stores, reseller stores, really telling them where to go, where they can buy, where they can get the product. And for the second example, this one highlights more the value proposition, sort of limited release, homegrown touch. Why should you care? Why should you wait there? Why you should buy from this brand? Also including a video about their special product. So here you can also include how your product is made, how can it be used, what is the experience maybe from previous years. And also a lot of information in the bottom of what is this? Why am I waiting here? What is this page? What is going on? Link to customer service as well. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. Please include information about your customer service here as well.
Yeah, I like these real examples, Tatiana, because it weaves several of the ideas that we have in this presentation in, right, with both the kind of really nice explanation, clear explained wait, the support information, but then also here, right, the behind the scenes sort of video, really increasing that anticipation among folks.
It is hard to imagine sometimes how to exactly use the strategy, how you can implement it on your Q page.
Exactly, and that's why we try to include as many visual examples as possible. The third tactic, as I mentioned, this also is helping support increased conversions, but this one is by doing it by tapping into social proof and scarcity marketing. And briefly, social proof, for those who aren't marketers on the call, social proof is basically the idea that we look to others' behavior to help guide our own. So think about the example, if you walk by 2 restaurants, one has a line out the door and is filled inside, the other is totally empty, you're going to make an assessment or a judgment of the quality of the restaurants just based on what other people are doing, right? So you're going to value that, you'd probably choose the one that, even if it has a line or is filled, because you're going to make assumptions based on the quality of that restaurant. And scarcity marketing is the idea that we also value things more that are scarcer or harder to come by, right? And kind of in the waiting room, these also combined with the anticipation marketing, where you're getting that confirmation that this is valuable to others and it's maybe limited in inventory. It makes it, they kind of complement each other. So displaying the waiting room metrics, right? Showing that there are other people in the waiting room like you, just like you would see in the physical world. And the example I just mentioned there, using some persuasive language to help tie into the fact that it's a really special brand moment. There might be limited inventory, and providing those real-time stock updates. Again, kind of ties back to, like I said, there's multiple threads here. That's also just a best practice from a Q psychology perspective, right? Giving clear and informed wait, but also helps show them that, wow, there really is demand. And if my shoe size or whatever is still available, I should make sure to execute that purchase when I get through.
And this time we have 3 cool examples from our customers. The first one is really to show what impact does it have if you're showing all the waiting information. And lots of our customers don't feel like showing a lot of information, which is exactly the opposite of what the Q Psychology or QIT is trying to explain. But here you could see, if I'm waiting on this page, I feel like, oh my God, my place in line is 8,000. That means there was 8,000 people before me going into the website. I have 5 minutes to go. I better think well about, am I going to buy now or not? And for most people, this means if 8,000 bought, I should buy too, and I should buy now because there is probably another 8,000 waiting after me. In the second example, from one of our other telco customers, Telkom, we have a quite engineered team, which is also quite complicated to make, but definitely doable, where we show the stock availability, prices on the subscription. This was an embedded widget that used an API so that you can automatically update what is the status. And for most of the visitors, it means that they can make most of their purchase and make a good decision on what they are going to buy and whether they are going to buy now. And for the final one, I think this is really, really cool, not just for retail, but also for ticketing, showing what do you still have in stock and what you don't have on stock anymore. So in the sneaker example, you can see that there's 200 people in front of you, and some of the sizes are already sold out. So if you're still in the sizes that you're lucky within 8 to 9.5, then you can still wait. And when you get to in front of the line, you're gonna go and make sure you buy.
Great.
And we have a cool, also a quote from one of our customers, Simpla. And all of the examples that we've shown, like displaying info, using persuasive language, showing real-time updates, they all help highlight how popular the event is. And that's also what Simpla experienced. So they have seen increased conversion rates thanks to the social proof and scarcity approach. And we hear so many more companies like Simpla using QIT and saying the exact same thing.
I was just going to say that, Tatiana. I mean, on my team, we help write the case studies or success stories with customers. I think I could pull 5 to 10 of those stories that we have where they say almost word for word the same thing about this idea that, okay, wow, I really need to buy. There's a lot of demand for this. Fourth tactic, switching gears a little bit, right? We talked about the first was increasing sales revenue through larger orders. This points 2 and 3 were increasing sales revenue through higher conversion rates. Now, tactic 4 leans into or ties a little bit into first-party marketing data and loyalty program memberships, which have their own value as well. And if you work, for example, at a retailer, you might well have an actual dollar figure on the value of an email in your database or a loyalty program member. But so there is a value to it. Might not be this immediate sales right here and now, but there's definitely strategic value in that. And you can do this both on the Q page itself, but also don't forget about the post Q page. So this is the page that can be shown to people if they're in line and the sale ends and they haven't gotten through. So maybe you only have 100 sneakers and you have 1,000 people who are trying to get them. You're probably gonna have some people in the waiting room at the end, and then there's a couple different logic options to do, but one of the options is to send them to a specific page. And that can, say something like, which I think we have an example of, but, put in your email to get a heads up, be the first to know about the next sale, something like that, right? So we'll walk through a couple examples here.
I think we only have one here, but
yeah, we just have
one.
one. Sorry.
One.
Yeah.
It's a good one, so we don't need more. But the North Face did a campaign which was for a limited release, and of course, lots of people missed out. Hence the limited release. But they did have the option to sign up and leave their email and be notified as the first ones for their next sale or next launch.
Yep, exactly. And it's not the topic of this webinar, but a cool thing is QIT's invite-only waiting room, where you can upload a list of emails, for example, and just give those people access to your sale or event through the sale registration. through the waiting room, basically. So it's kind of locked down just for them. There's a verification step that goes on. So you could also really deliver a sort of a earlier exclusive access to the people who missed out on a previous sale, also through Qit. And the fifth and final tactic that we'll cover today is increasing social media engagement and streams. Again, this is not maybe have hard money, so to speak, but there is a lot of value in social media engagement, and that value, as anyone in marketing can attest to. And again, a lot of options here: promo videos, playlists, social media links, etc. One concrete example: a couple of years back, there was a sneaker drop where they embedded a YouTube video. They got over 100,000 views on the YouTube video from people viewing it while they were waiting. And I think there were about 400,000 people who went through. It was a pretty big brand and collaboration. So there was a lot of interest in it. But so a quarter of people watched the video to its entirety. And, that helps with the YouTube marketing efforts as well, to have those views there. Maybe even have people subscribe, etc. So you get the idea. We'll go through a couple of examples here.
Yes, so the first one from our customer, London's Young Big Theatre, they have used many concepts, but among some of these former Twitter feed, now it's a bit wonky because you need to be logged in, but we could probably work on that. There's a YouTube video and a link to YouTube channel. There's also a little bit hidden in the text, but link to join their mailing list to be the first one to hear about the ticket releases. So a really, really cool one that caught a lot of customers' attention. And for the second one, this is a little bit relates to the very first example, but really putting there a playlist of or Spotify widget from the artists whose tickets you're selling catches a lot of attention, a lot of plays of these songs.
Great. So as I mentioned, we do have a blog dedicated on this. So there's a QR code here. Otherwise, you can go to our website and go to our blog, and you'll find it should be at the top there, one of the first or second two. But there are 12 ways, so 7 additional ways we didn't get to cover due to time today, but more food for thought there if you'd like to check that out. And now we have just one kind of sum up slide, but we have one last poll for you. So which Q tactic would you like to try for your next sale or registration? And I guess the other one is about embedded content, Tatiana. So maybe incorporating interactive elements might be there. But I guess several of these would help cover some of those areas. I know. What do you think?
Definitely. I'm very curious about the results.
Yeah. Feels like we're in an award show or something, and the Oscar goes to. And the winner is. All right.
All right.
Oh, okay. So actually, it looks like there's a tie. There was the interactive elements, videos, games. It was a little bit suspected, but also the loyalty program newsletter sign up. Very cool. And we've done on our website, we also have some previous product talks that talked about the invite-only waiting room. So if you don't have that, they go quite well together. So that's a good one to check out. Any thoughts here, Tatiana?
No, just reach out to us, reach out to our team, and let's help you make these things a reality. And also, whether it comes to the embedded content or the loyalty program, we certainly have a lot of experience with both and a lot of other examples. So do talk to your customer success manager, or if you're a little bit new to your salesperson, and we're always going to be happy to help. And to sum up, in our product talk, here are once more the 3 main concepts to keep in mind for your next event. So the first one, and I hope you know them by heart, but let's recap anyway. There's a lot of possibilities to customize the theme with any combination of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS to make it look 100% you. The second one, waiting room page is key to providing informed and transparent wait. Just remember to use the Q psychology best practices. And the final one, you do have your customers' undivided attention. It's a lost opportunity if you don't use it. If used right, your waiting room can boost conversions, drive cross-selling, incentivize membership signups, and increase social media engagement.
Awesome. There's a lot of ground we covered there, Tatiana. So appreciate the sum up. Hopefully you do as well. The first one, and Tatiana, I'll let you take this, but can
Yes.
Quit help us customize our waiting room page?
And the answer is, of course. Usually we help with around 1 or 2 custom themes per year. Normally that also fits our customers' needs. And there you usually send us your requirements or some mockups, and we help you implement cross-device testing. All of that is included. If you need more help, we can always figure out what makes most sense for both sides. And we have a second question.
I see there's one here about, is the embedded Spotify, etc. part of the Quit package, or does this need to be coded at cost by a Quit team member?
All right, very good question. The Quit Spotify integration normally works as an iframe. So we normally receive code from our customers for that specific iframe integration, and we embed it into the custom themes. So whether that's cost on any side, not on ours. Not sure if there's any further cost to a commercial use of Spotify. So that might be something for you guys to figure out. I hope that helps, but feel free to contact us for more information.
Yep. All right, I could see one here in the chat from Mark. We found that when we show remaining stock levels, people abandon the waiting room because they think they won't have the opportunity to buy. Any advice on getting them to stick around?
There's a few things. There's definitely this discussion of, do you want people to continue waiting or not? So for some cases, it is helpful to be transparent with the users and let them continue on with their day. We've also, as Christian mentioned, you can use post-queue page or also links during the queue duration for users who can see they are missing out. So you can redirect them to a page where they can sign up. So if you're saying, well, we're sold out of size 10, you can post a link that says, if you're missing out on this sale, sign up here on the page, and you'll be the first one to know about any future sales.
Yep. That's a good point, Tatiana. Okay, let's see. We have
a question from, well, you're welcome, Mark. Looks like it helped. There's a lot of questions, so I'm going to pick a quick one. So thanks all. Are all functions show today free or part of specific plan? For all our plans, if you have purchased custom theme feature, you can do most of these customizations. The only things that are not included directly in the custom theme feature are the email notification. So that's the separate feature, or the white label. So of course that's a separate feature.
Right. And the white label, some of the key things in addition to the custom theme is removing the what is this link that it kind of explains what is a queue, being able to fully remove all Quit logos, being able to customize the URL, and also the it's your turn sound. Am I forgetting anything there, Tatiana?
No, that sounds about right. But thank you for the question. And I see there is one from Sabina in the chat. Who do I contact if I'd like to customize my waiting room? Anybody, and we'll make sure it gets to the right person. But in general, you either contact your customer success manager, or if you're not sure who that person is, you can always contact support@quit.com or use the support function in the Go platform and reach out to us directly. And then your request reaches our technical and front-end team, and we figure out, what are capabilities of your team, what do we like us to do, and then we figure out how to make the custom theme happen for you.
Yeah, I do want to note also, I think our front-end developers would kill us if we didn't mention this at least. Please give some lead time, right? I don't know what the maybe Tatiana, the standard best practice, it's like 1 or 2 weeks, but please don't do it.
The best practice is as soon as possible.
Yeah, but please don't do it like 2 days before. I know it does happen. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but it's really best because there's often a lot of back and forth and stuff, I know, to make sure that it looks just quite right.
Week or two are great. And we do have a lot of customers who, for whatever reason, cannot share or don't want to share with us the exact performer they're selling tickets for, or the exact, iPhone, for example. Usually even the sellers don't have the details until day or two. So we can also make sort of a pre-mock-up or pre-made custom theme with some sort of placeholder content. Then you can just quickly replace that content. So, no need to wait for the last minute, and no need to share with us if you don't want to. But this is the best way to give us enough time for that inevitable ping pong between the departments.
Yeah, and we do have a white paper as well that you can get in the Go platform that kind of walks through it's called custom theme. So if you want to try and give it a shot yourself, that has kind of a step-by-step instructions on how you and your team can give it a shot. I can see there's one from Felipe that I can take.
Yes.
So it says, we work with different sneaker brands with a lot of hype in each of the new releases. And we also deal with a lot of bots and web scraping attackers. Is there a way to release a bit of pressure from that area? And I would say yes. Great question. Quit, actually, we didn't cover it today, but we also have had, I think we did it last year. There's a really nice product talk called How to Beat Bad Bots with Quit. Would highly recommend checking that out. But basically, Quit does have a bots and abuse feature. If you think about it, Quit actually, because of the waiting room, kind of functions like a security checkpoint at the airport, right? Everyone has to go through the security checkpoint. And so it gives that ability, the kind of luxury of time to stop people and to run security checks on them, check their ID, make sure they are who they say they are, sort of thing. Similar concept, and that's why we have the bots and abuse features as well, because it just is an opportune time to do that. I won't go into all the examples here, but yes, there are definitely ways that you can do this. We have a suite of features, everything from proof of work challenges and CAPTCHAs to really the invite only waiting room that I also mentioned, which is kind of like a zero trust approach. Like, you have to prove that you are Tatiana or Christian, and that you verify, two-factor authentication with the email, and so that only those people who are on the list, so to speak, are able to get in. It really depends a little on the use case, but definitely reach out to your customer success manager to talk about that, to make sure that it's tailored to your specific situation. But in short, yes.
Speaking of sneakers, you usually have not these one-time people that are coming for the sales. But those are usually loyal fans, really sneakerheads coming to these. So really try to maybe think of not just from the bot's perspective about the invite-only waiting room, but also from the user experience. So if you have 10 pairs of shoes, who do you invite? Who do you want to get these? You definitely don't want bots to get them and resell them. That's for sure. That's the bot feature. But also make sure that it's your best customers, or it's the customers you want to engage with more. So really try to target that sale through the invite-only waiting room.
Yep. All right, and another last shout to put in any questions. I think we have just one left, which came in on the chat, which says, can you elaborate on the fairness mechanisms like randomization and which method Quit recommends? So if there's a timed sale or release, whether it's tickets or sneakers or whatever, or registration for something, then we do recommend using the pre-queue setup. Tatiana, is the recommendation at least, is it like 30 minutes or something beforehand?
I'm not gonna go with the recommendation. It depends a lot on the customer's profile.
Okay. But let's say as an example, right? Classic example is something going on sale at 10 a.m. Then we recommend, for example, you could start a pre-queue at 9 a.m. that collects all those people coming early on a countdown page. It's on Quit's infrastructure, right? So you also avoid the concern about crashing early. And then everyone is randomized and put into a queue at 10. And everyone who shows up after, let's say at 10:05, they get added to the end of the queue in a first in, first out manner. Now, the reason we often recommend that approach instead of, for example, opening the queue at 9 a.m. and then pausing the queue and then just starting to run the queue at 10, is that often what that just does is artificially move the time an hour earlier. So then what you're going to see is a massive spike of people trying to come in right at 9:00 on the dot. And oftentimes what that means is bots or people that have an unfair advantage a speed advantage are going to get the first spots, right? So that's why we really like this randomization thing. I know it's a little, in this case, that's a little bit different than in the physical world, right? In the physical world, if you're really dedicated, you're going to show up 2 hours in advance and then you're going to wait in line. But there's also a much higher cost to that, right? Like you're then using 2 hours of your time standing outside waiting for something. When it's online, you could just as well open your computer at 8 a.m., click, and then just let it sit there for 2 hours. So that's why the dynamics are a little bit different online that we found and why we would recommend that. But I do know a couple of customers that say, hey, that's fair, but we will just say 9 a.m. We'll have the queue, have it paused, and then just run it from there. That's also okay. But our standard recommendation for those timed releases is to do a pre-queue with that randomization. Anything you want to add on that, Tatiana?
No, I think you've covered it. You've covered it pretty well.
Great.
So
Well,
thanks for all the questions. That was
yeah,
really
thank you for all
lovely.
the questions. That always makes it more engaging. And I realize that we ran a bit over time here, so hopefully you were able to stick around again. Otherwise, for those of you who are watching in the next couple of days, the recording, we include the answers to these questions in them, so you'll get that. But I would say thank you, Tatiana, for joining us. I think this is your first Q webinar.
Yes.
So
Cool.
thanks. You survived. Thanks for sharing your experience here. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And then I'll just say thank you and have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.